So, as promised, we're going to begin this class with the heart chakra. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the heart chakra and then give you the exercise, the first exercise for the class. And as I mentioned in the first audio, throughout this class we're going to be using the heart chakra as our touch point and using the heart chakra to communicate with all other chakras because the heart is the center of all things. It has been said that the heart is where the kingdom of God resides, and therefore our own kingdom. It's where our desires are kept safe. You could argue that the entire Bible is ultimately about the release and restoration of the heart. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, above all else, above all else. I just want you to hear that. Above all else, watch over your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. In Jesus' first public speaking, he read from Isaiah to declare his own mission. And the verse that he read was, he, meaning the Lord, has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted and to set the captives free. The Old Testament said that God will remove our heart of stone, which is a heart that is hardened, and give us a heart of flesh, which is a heart that is tender specifically towards God or our higher selves. This is not a religious class, but I bring those things up because it's one of the most ancient texts that we have, and yet all throughout it talks about the heart. It's funny how people miss it. It has been said that it is beauty and affliction that pierce the heart, and that we must have more beauty in our lives than affliction. That's the remedy, that's the prescription for life, is beauty, because beauty speaks to the heart more than all things. The Institute of Heart Math has recorded the heart to be approximately 60 times greater electrically and up to 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. It is literally the most powerful field in our body. And if you think about it, electrically and magnetically, our electromagnetic field, that's how we attract and pull things into our lives, into our experience. The heart is literally the center of that function, not the mind. It is the heart. And guess what fuels the heart? It's desire. Desire is what fuels the heart. Desire is what fuels life. And it's ironic, too, because for the past 2,000 years, religion has programmed us to kill desire in exchange for duty and performance. Even just look at Buddhism, and a lot of people misinterpret this, but one of the proponents of it is that if we cease to have desire, or if we somehow get control over our desire, we will no longer have any suffering. So suffering has literally been synonymous with desire, when in fact desire is actually what fuels our lives. Desire is the entire reason that we incarnated. It was desire that caused us to incarnate into this physical experience, and yet we've been trying to kill it ever since. We often believe if we can perform well, who needs the heart? Who needs to feel? Just look at how movies portray the heart. Usually people who are heart-centered are portrayed as weak and fragile, yet those who have a closed-down heart in favor of the brain, people who are really smart and have no emotions and no feeling and no empathy, are usually worthy of our admiration, and we sort of praise the mind. The mind is God in our society. So as a result, society has created a world of grown men and women with highly developed memory and problem-solving skills, and basically our minds are very, very developed, but we have next to zero ability to understand the heart and its function, to understand emotions. And yet, as I mentioned in the previous audio, we've discovered scientifically that if the part of our brain that processes emotion is damaged, we will be incapable, absolutely incapable, rendered incapable of making any decisions, even the most basic ones, like what to eat. Emotions and feelings and the heart are literally the center of all things and the center of our being. So wouldn't it make sense that we should be emotionally intelligent, that we should understand the function of the heart and what its purpose is? The heart chakra is located in the center of our body, obviously where our heart is, and it's vibrationally fueled by desire, and it's blocked by grief. Grief is the number one emotion that blocks our heart chakra, and it makes sense because everyone, if you're human, if you've been born in this life, at some point Your heart has probably been broken, and if it hasn't yet, it probably will be. It's part of the contrast we opted in for. Most of us spend an entire lifetime, sometimes several lifetimes, attempting to heal the wounds and afflictions of the heart caused by life. And if life hasn't already hurt you, like I said, it probably will. But this is the contrast that we came for. We came from a place of unity and peace and harmony, the source of all sources. We came from source, so that's pure harmony. And to come into this physical experience is partly to understand what we are by understanding what we're not. The heart is our most vulnerable space when we come into this life. It is the most vulnerable aspect of us. And after we've spent time in our human evolution surviving, the humanoid is designed to survive. But right now in our human evolution, most of us have evolved past basic things like just having to get food. We're evolved past simply surviving. And that's the point when we start to feel, when the higher faculties, the upper chakras come into play. And it's right after the solar plexus. So the heart is the very next chakra after the solar plexus, which is our sense of personal power. The two chakras underneath that are our root chakra, which is all about survival, and our sacral chakra, which is about sort of our giving, receiving, our creativity, and sex. But they're all related to survival. It's not until you get to the heart that you start getting into the deeper meaning of what it means to be human, the kingdom of God, the higher, what we would call higher, but the more evolved senses. And it is funny how, again, most people think of the heart as weaker than the brain or the mind, or weaker than just our ability to survive, but it's simply because humanity has just been surviving for so long. We are extremely unintelligent when it comes to emotions and when it comes to subtle energies and subtle vibrations. But that's beginning to change, and it's changing at a critical mass right now, which is why so many people, even the smartest and most wealthy people in the world, are starting to understand their life is nothing without the heart. One of my friends is an intuitive reader, and her main thing is she's flown all over the country to work with CEOs, like Forbes 500 people, men usually, mostly all men, who have her come in and help her work with their heart, with their emotions, with their internal worlds, because they've conquered the world in every other way, and yet they feel empty, or they feel handicapped, I should say, when it comes to understanding what the deeper meaning of life and what it's all about. There's so many things to say about the heart, as I'm just taking a sigh, because I almost felt ill-equipped to even talk about this, because it's so huge and it's such a big part of our existence, which we will keep coming back to over and over. But the one thing that I want to emphasize is that desire is what fuels the heart, and creation is what the heart is what we as humans are made for. We are made to create, and what we create in this life is a reflection of what we are deep down. Our desire is to create the kingdom of God on earth. That is why we are bent to create. From the time we come out of the womb, pretty much, we're creating thoughts, we're putting memories together and creating reality. We're creating we're constantly creating through our existence here, and creation and desire is what fuels our hearts. It has been said that love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But sadly, most of us have shut down our hearts in favor of duty, like I said, in favor of performance and perfectionism, you name it. We believe that if we can just not feel, all of our problems would be solved. Look at Buddhism, as I said. The problem is we're not robots, and life, this gift of living, is for the contrast, and it's fragile. The entire reason we're here is to find our hearts in contrast, to desire, create, and fulfill. Interestingly enough, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And when we become indifferent to life, indifferent to this experience, that is ultimately when our hearts are completely shut down. That is when we have a heart of stone. And that is when we need to ask for our heart to be made for the stone to be removed and our heart to be made into flesh again, a tender heart. And the more tender, the better, which is not what you'll hear from most people. So for our first exercise, I want you to get in touch with your heart. Take some deep breaths and find your heart center. Remember, I'm gonna put a picture of the toroidal field in the human body, but in the toroidal field, there's a tiny space within the heart where all things are connected. And our energy field goes out, around, up, and back through all the chakras and into our hearts. But the heart is the center of all things. It's like the engine for our whole existence. I'll put a picture of that for visualization purposes, but get in touch with your heart. Take some deep breaths. Find that center in your heart, that tiny space where all things exist, and have a conversation with your heart. Your relationship with your heart is the most important relationship you will ever have. You are not here for other people, you are here for you. And once you take care of your heart and allow for the overflow, that is what loves ultimately other people. You cannot love people, and you will not love people well if you have an empty, dry, hardened heart. It is only from the overflow that you can truly love. So this is crucial beyond all things, above all else. This is the most crucial thing you can do for yourself or for anyone else. So let's start this class by making a commitment to our hearts. Start by having a conversation with your heart center. Feel it. Ask it questions. Apologize to it if need be. And then write down some affirmations that reflect your intentions in this class and your commitment to guarding your heart, your wellspring of life, your treasure. Try to spend at least 5 minutes with your heart, asking it questions, feeling it, asking just whatever wants to come through. I don't like to dictate this too much because everyone's so different, but start a dialogue with your heart. And then write some affirmations down. Here are the ones that I wrote, which you can use, or you can use your own. I think it's really nice to write your own because they're tailored to you, but sometimes it's helpful to use other ones, especially if you're not used to writing affirmations. So the ones that I wrote are, in this moment, I bring all of my attention to the center of my heart. Nothing exists outside of me. The universe is within. With every breath, I renew and empower my life force from my heart expansion. A prayer for me is only accepting loving energy from myself and others. The universe supports every healthy decision I make for myself. I choose my individual, unique expression of God, Goddess. I allow my ego to be the protector of my heart and to be an extension of my most powerful inner truth. We're going to be talking a lot about the ego and about the mind and its function because, again, I think that's something that has been, at least in my experience, really misunderstood. I was raised in a religious background, and I feel like the ego is constantly put down as like a lower thing, but we have an ego for a purpose. And I like the idea of allowing my ego to be the protector of my heart and to be the extension of my most powerful inner truth. Our egos are just a costume we're in, and they're fun to play with. We don't have to take them too seriously, but we can also have fun with them, and we can also be purposeful with them, which is really what this class is all about, because through understanding all of our chakras, all of our centers, energy centers, we come to understand our ego, not just our human ego, but our greater self, our higher self. So spend some time with your heart. See what comes through. Check in with yourself. Really try to feel what just allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to feel and see what comes through. And I would love to hear your experiences with this exercise. You can write it post in the class group, in the Facebook group. It's fun. It's more fun, I think, when everyone participates. So please share. I would love to hear. Okay, ciao.